Welcome to Ask the Editor, your chance to ask us any question about any issue you care about in the world. This week's questions pertain to the impotence of the Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. We published a few articles on him recently, the links to which are in the video description below. First question, sent by @AnikaNeuer on Twitter. How come the Nehru dynasty has gone so unchallenged? Well, the answer to that is they haven't really gone unchallenged. The problem is that the challengers have been incompetent and incoherent. Also, structurally, Indian politics is based around favoring those with greater resources of power and wealth. So, the advantage one which the Nehru dynasty has is that they have control over the means of discourse. So the history of India has been written primarily by Nehru loyalists sitting in universities which are full of academics largely appointed on the basis of their loyalty to the dynasty. Also, all landmarks across the country are named around members of the Nehru dynasty. So people grow up with a sense of loyalty and gratitude to the dynasty. So it's a bit like the Mao cult, except that there are many figures in the pantheon. Second thing, and this is very important, is that elections in India are even more expensive than elections in the US. This means those with big coffers have a natural strategic advantage and a natural practical advantage. And the biggest purse is with the Congress party, and the strings to that purse are controlled by the dynasty. So, if you want to go up against the dynasty, you have to go up against the dominant paradigm, which has been instilled into the population, and two, you have to have money to do so. Now, it doesn't help if you're incompetent and incoherent whilst going up against such a formidable electoral machine. So that is why the challenges to the Nehru dynasty have all failed. We had a few brief periods of opposition rule, and each time the opposition was either voted out or the opposition parties imploded because of infighting. So that is answer to question one. Question 2 comes from @AHPaulin, and the question is, Manmohan Singh is known as a force for modernization and liberalization. Has that ground to a halt, or is there progress still being made? So the answer to that is liberalization and modernization have ground to a halt. No progress is being made. Manmohan's cabinet is full of unreformed socialists who owe their loyalty to Sonia. They have actually impeded any further liberalization. They have actually regressed into creating a state that is more intrusive, more exploitative, more extractive. Regulations have increased. Retroactive legislation has been brought into this budget, which will allow the Indian government to penalize any company going back many decades. And corruption has hit a level that is astronomical. The perception that Manmohan is a force for modernization and liberalization is a flawed one. I address this in my article very clearly. He is an accidental hero. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them. Manmohan has had greatness thrust upon him. He was an unreformed socialist before 1991. The balance of payments crisis forced India to change laws as per the IMF rescue plan, and he just implemented the IMF rescue plan and got credit for it. Thereafter, he has done little to deserve any of his reputation, and India has been riding on reforms that were enacted a while ago for its continued economic growth and its momentum. To grow in a more sustainable fashion, to continue the India progress story, India needs a fresh bout of reforms. India needs institutions that work. India needs to address the problem of corruption, and these are all fronts on which Manmohan has failed, and failed miserably. Question 3 is by @SomeReasoning. It's a rather long question, and it goes like this. The politics are messed up. It looks like nothing is going to happen anytime soon. instead of fighting what we may not be able to change, what are the mega trends in India that influence events? So, mega trends in India. Let's talk about mega trends in India. Answer this half of the question and then address the assumptions later. Mega trends in India are, it's a young country. There are a lot of young people. Demography means that the number of young people with increased aspirations is increasing, and therefore there will be demand for change, there will be unrest, and you can see that already in the anti-corruption movement that broke out last year. Megatrend 2 is that the Indian state is failing, institutions are collapsing, whether it is the police, whether it is the judiciary, whether it is the intelligence services, whether it is the defense services. All these institutions are crumbling. So sooner or later, if the Indian state wants to be dynamic and wants to continue to be relevant, it will have to reinvent the institutions which are in sync with our times. Right now, the entire edifice of the state is 19th century. It was drafted by a bunch of Victorians who went to Oxford, or more specifically, Balliol. The entire Indian civil service structure was created by Benjamin Jowett of Balliol College, Oxford, and it is bizarre and completely crazy that should continue to form the basis of the Indian state. So the two things, as I said, the demographic challenge India has, which will create unrest, and two, the institutional collapse India is facing, these two will have to be addressed. Third megatrend, which is very important to note, and which is very positive for India in the long run, is the fact that Indians are now acquiring a self-confidence to play on the big league and at the global stage. The number of bright and hungry young kids coming out of India who are yearning to do well, who are doing well not just in entrepreneurship, not just in traditional fields like medicine and engineering and physics and math, but also in new fields like animation, is staggering. And this energy, this unleashing of energy and this hunger and curiosity to excel on a wider canvas is going to lead to a large section of the Indian population coming of age. And if you look at a mega trend, the second highest number of CEOs of global companies after Americans are Indians. It's not the English, it is not the French, it is now Indians. And that is a significant trend which will only amplify going forward. What is also interesting is that a number of top institutions in the world, like Harvard Business School, are headed by Indians. Nitin Noria is now the Dean of Harvard Business School, and INSEAD is headed by an Indian as well, and Chicago Business School is headed by an Indian. And I think that excelling at a global standard is going to raise expectations, is hopefully going to create demand for change, and that positive element might well see India raise itself from the morass and find the leaders who will lead it finally into the new 21st century. So on that positive note, I'd like to thank you for your questions. Remember to tweet us your questions at MyFairObserver, #ask, or post us a question on our Facebook page. Let us keep questioning to make sense of the world. This is Atul Singh, founder and editor-in-chief, wishing you a wonderful week ahead and all the best with everything you are up to.